Well, we finally have the schedule for Indiana men's basketball, and all I gotta say, man, it's brutal.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into this, the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goetz. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen, your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, thank you so much for being here. Shout out to all of my everydayers, those of you that come back Monday through Friday, each and every day, truly making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. And we finally have the full schedule, the full game times, the full TV announcements, everything we need to know for Indiana men's basketball for the 2024 and the 2025 season. We've waited long enough. The season starts in 2.5-3 weeks. I guess it's a good time to release the schedule. Unbelievable, man. We waited forever for this thing, and we waited forever for a schedule that's flat out brutal. I mean, this thing is tough, man. We're going to go through the whole schedule today, break it down, kind of do it in segments, right? We're going to do that. I'll ask you where you think Indiana should end up in the Big Ten standings. Where should we finish this season? What's the expectation given the team that we have, the schedule that we now have, and comparing it to everybody else around the Big Ten Conference that got 4 teams bigger this year, plus Kurtis Rourke for Heisman? We'll have that for you later on here on the show as well. All right, let's break this thing down, man. Indiana's regular season men's basketball schedule. We'll have a women's breakdown as well coming up in a few shows, so keep that in mind. We'll have that coming up for you in a little bit too. The 2 exhibition games, we know this, right? We know the one against Marion on November 1st. We have that one. That's going to be on November 1st, 7 p.m. Eastern. These are all Eastern time, all right, on the Big Ten Plus. But the one that everybody wants to know about, the Tennessee exhibition game, right? Tennessee, October 27th. That's coming up in 17 days when this comes out. 3 p.m. on the SEC Network Plus. That's the streaming service, the SEC Network channel. If you pay for ESPN Plus, you get the SEC Network Plus. It's the same thing as Big Ten Plus, all right? It's just a streaming online only version to watch that game, but really, really fascinated to see how we look in that game. So looking forward to that. Regular season. All right. We've talked a lot about the regular non-conference games. We've talked a lot about those. We know a lot of the times on this one. All right, but we have the full schedule, everything released that we need to know. SIU Edwardsville, 8 o'clock on the Big Ten Network. Eastern Illinois, noon on Big Ten Plus. South Carolina. All right, South Carolina will play this game on Peacock. Yes, you have to buy it. You had to buy it last year. It's annoying. It's frustrating, but it is what it is. That's a 3 o'clock game on November 16th against South Carolina. UNC Greensboro, 6:30 in FS1. Battle for Atlantis. We know the one game because we only have one of them set. It's Louisville at noon on ESPN. That's all going to be on ESPN. Sam Houston and Miami, 7:30 and 7, both on the Big Ten Network. Then you get into Big Ten play, all right? Versus Minnesota at home, 6:30 on the Big Ten Network. At Nebraska, 8 o'clock on Fox on December 13th. UT Chattanooga at noon, Winthrop at 4 p.m. So we're really going to go through the whole Big Ten schedule here, okay? Again, Minnesota on December 9th. That's at home. So we do open up at home, right, with Minnesota. And December 13th at Nebraska. Now, that's not the worst case scenario for your first 2 Big Ten games. And look, I think we should win those games. I think we're better than both of those teams. One of them's on the road, and I love that. Let's get it out of the way. Let's get a road game under our belt, and let's see how we do, right? Then you get those 2 last non-conference games, and then Big Ten play fully opens up You're back home versus Rutgers, who I think is going to be a really solid team. There's some really common names on there that we are very familiar with, Indiana fans. That's an 8:30 tip. We're going to have some late ones this year, folks. So keep that in mind here. Then we're going to go and play at the Palestra, right? We're going to play Penn State, not at Penn State. We're going to play in Philadelphia. Really looking forward to that on January 5th. Then we're back home. USC will make the cross-country trip to come and play inside of Assembly Hall. How cool is that going to be? I don't know how good they're going to be this year. I have not done my full deep dive on USC, but I know the roster a little bit, and our roster is much better than theirs. Now, they've got a great coach in Muss, but we got to see what they're going to bring on January 8th at 7 p.m. on the Big Ten Network. You go to Iowa, which that's no fun, but hey, we got to take some road trips here. Back home versus Illinois. I told you before when we talked about this schedule, I love having Illinois at home. I hate playing over there, man. I don't know. It's a weird venue. It's a weird area. We just don't play well there. I'm cool with Illinois coming here. This is when it starts to ramp up, is right here. January 17th at Ohio State, 8 o'clock on Fox. We're going to be on big boy television on that night, playing at Ohio State in Columbus. Then we go to Northwestern on January 22nd before we return home versus Maryland. That's a tough little stretch right there for this Indiana squad. That's a noon game over the weekend on CBS. Then you go at Purdue January 31st, 8 o'clock on Fox. So a big national televised game. Again, we have a ton of those this season. At Wisconsin, a 9 o'clock tip, man. There's one of those late ones on February 4th. Home versus Michigan at Michigan State. That Michigan game's on CBS, so keep that in mind. At Michigan State, 9 o'clock on Peacock. Golly. UCLA at home, 8 p.m. That's another nationally televised game on Fox. Home for Purdue on the 23rd. That is 1:30 on CBS. That is a national televised game. Home versus Penn State, at Washington, at Oregon, and home for Ohio State. Man, brutal. Absolutely brutal what this schedule has in store for you. You take road trips to Penn State, to Iowa, Ohio State, Northwestern, Purdue, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Washington, and Oregon. Like, what? Holy smokes, man. This is absolutely brutal. And your home games, you get, don't forget the road trip at Nebraska, too. Don't forget that one. Your home games, Minnesota, Rutgers, USC, Illinois, excited for that one. Maryland, excited for that one. Michigan, excited for that. UCLA, Purdue, Penn State, Ohio State. We have good home games. They just get balanced with the road games, man. What I like, though, is that this Indiana team is going to be playing on national television, man. We're going to be all over national television, including you're going to have at least 4 on Fox, 4 on CBS, so that's 8. So at least 8, possibly 9 games on straight-up national TV, not counting streaming or FS1 or Peacock or anything like that. Indiana, this team's going to be in front of eyeballs. That's what I want to get across to you. This team will be in front of a ton of eyes. And we think we're going to be good. We're going to have plenty of chances to prove it. We'll talk about how we can do that, where we should end up, right? Where should we finish in the Big Ten standings? I have that coming up for you next here on Locked on Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked on Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. They are my go-to ticketing app for sports, music, theater, comedy, you name it. And they got it. They've got a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to and waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. Nobody wants to do that. And my favorite parts of the Game Time app, they're all in pricing. I tell you this every single time. When you toggle this feature, it's going to show you your total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. So once you turn this feature on, once you toggle it, you see the price that you're going to pay at the very end. No hidden fees, none of that stuff. It is the price that you pay. And their lowest price guarantee guarantees that you get the lowest price, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much for being here again. Shout out to all of my everydayers. I see you, I hear you, and as always, I really, really do appreciate you. Be sure that you do a couple of things for me really quickly before we get back into this Indiana men's basketball schedule. Like this video for me, gets it out there, lets other people find it, lets other people become a part of this wonderful community. Also, be sure you comment down below if you're on the YouTube side of things, your thoughts on the schedule, on the times, on the TV, on the location, all of that. Let me know your thoughts on this entire schedule as we have it completely in detail now on what Indiana's going to be facing in 2024 and 2025. And then the best thing you can do to help support this show that's free to you every single day is subscribe to the YouTube channel. Right next to the Locked On Hoosiers logo, just to the right of it, hit that little oval for me. Shows me that you want to be here, shows me that you enjoy the content, and that you're going to come back tomorrow, okay? So be sure that you do that for me, and that all really, really helps me and helps the show grow each and every day. Well, with the schedule that we have, and I guess more importantly with the team that we have, I'm asking the question, where should this Indiana team finish in the Big Ten this season? I think we have one of the most talented teams in the conference. I think we have one of the most talented teams in all of college basketball. But you heard that schedule just now. You heard me read it to you and go through it and react to it on where we have to go, when we have to play, in the order that we have to do it in. And it's no joke, man. It's not easy in this conference. But here's what we have to remind ourselves, and I have to remind myself of this as well. Everybody in the Big Ten has a schedule similar to this. And I think that's really important to remember is there are no easy games in the Big Ten. I mean, look at this schedule. Tell me where there is an easy schedule on or an easy game. I mean, home versus Minnesota to open up the season. Okay. Even your games against Northwestern aren't easy. We saw how that went last year, right? I mean, I genuinely don't see one. I don't see easy games. Even if, let's just say, for example, Washington isn't a good basketball team. Okay, you still have to fly to Seattle and play that game and then stay out there and play Oregon 3 days later. Like, that's not an easy trip to make at all. And so I really don't see a break in this Indiana schedule, which tells me a couple of things. One, as I mentioned, it tells me that everybody else in the Big Ten is going to be dealing with the similar type of problem where they just don't get a day off. The schedule's brutal all the way through. But it also tells me that this team's going to have to play extremely well. Remember the problems we had from a year ago, right? Losing to teams we weren't supposed to, struggling with early non-conference games, getting beat and run out of the gym, and just getting stuck in a rut over and over and over again. We can't afford that this year. Not with the expectations that are set on this squad, on the expectations that you and I, the fans, have for this Indiana team. And so you've got to show up and play every single night. And luckily, I do feel that with this roster, with how it's built and what we brought in and what we were able to retain as well, I do feel that if we have somebody that has an off night, Umar Ballo has an off night, or Miles Rice has an off night, Mackenzie Mbako has an off night, I believe we have enough dudes to make up for that. Does that make sense? I think we have enough guys to where we don't have to rely on the Khalil Ware to have a fantastic game. And if he doesn't, we're screwed. I don't think that was the issue a year ago. I don't think that's a problem this year. Now, we can't make that a consistent thing. You can't have Malik Renew play terrible for 5 games in a row because, yeah, you're going to lose some of those games. But if he has an off night on a Tuesday in Madison, Wisconsin or whatever, I think we have enough talent to make that okay and still have a chance to win the basketball game. And that's what's really key here is we have some depth, man. We have really good talent in the starting five, but don't forget about the dudes on the bench. Don't forget about Trey Galloway. Don't forget about Luke Goody and Langdon Hatton and even Gabe Cupps, if you want to throw him in there as well. Like, don't forget those guys that are sitting back behind them. That's going to make this team much, much better, especially when you get in this late stretch that I'm looking at over here. I mean, where do you want? I mean, look at February, man. February's at Wisconsin, Michigan at home, at Michigan State, UCLA at home, Purdue at home, Penn State at home. And then you make that trip to Washington, Oregon, and you come back and play a really talented Ohio State Buckeyes team. Like, dude, February, and that's early March too. But February's brutal, man. Like, that's insane to think about. And your depth is going to help you with that. So my initial question here is, where should Indiana finish in the Big Ten this season? I think top five. I think top five is a must. I think top five is a demand that you should have as an Indiana fan. That's how I feel. That's what I believe. I think top five in this conference should be a must for Mike Woodson and this Indiana basketball team. Even with the expanded Big Ten conference now that's got 80,000 teams in it, I think the top five is where you should be, because who else do you have to compete with? I think Purdue, obviously. I think Michigan and Ohio State are going to be better than people give them credit for. I think Rutgers will be a really good squad. I'm interested to see what UCLA and USC are going to bring to the table. They are kind of wild cards for me. Wisconsin's a big wild card for me as well. Illinois is going to be up there. Iowa's going to be up there. Like, there are really, Maryland's going to be in that mix too. Like, there are a lot of big question marks around the Big Ten as we get into the season, but Indiana's not one of them. Indiana's not a question mark. We know how good this team can be. Do we know exactly what we're going to be? No, not yet, but we understand there's a lot of talent here. And so top five is an absolute must. And if that doesn't happen, we're in trouble. And you know who else is in trouble? Mike Woodson. Mike Woodson's in trouble if you don't finish top five in the Big Ten. I think we should be flirting with a Big Ten championship, regular season and or conference tournament championship. I mean, that's the level that I've reached this season, okay? That's where I'm at based off of what happened a year ago and what you brought in this offseason. And again, what you were able to retain as well. That is the expectation that I have set for this Indiana team. Is that too high, too low, right there in the middle? I don't know. You tell me. You can drop those in the YouTube comments below. But based off the schedule and the team that we have, that's just how I feel. Top five is a must. You need to be competing to win Big Ten championships. And then you got to get to the tournament, and we got to make a run this year. If you want to sell the future to these big-time recruits, put it on the floor, Woody, and show that we can be a legitimate team in the Big Ten this season. Well, coming up in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers, we'll flip gears, go over to football, because we got to start talking about Kurtis Rourke in the Heisman conversation. That's right. Heisman Trophy winner Kurtis Rourke. Can't you see it now? New York City is going to look good wearing some Hoosier colors. We'll talk about that coming back at our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, happens to me during the baseball playoffs right now, hockey season's underway, basketball season's right around the corner. Believe me, I get the itch to bet all the time in those games. And you can check out the latest stats, view play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You don't have to have a million tabs open on your computer or be going back and forth on your phone. You can do it all on the same place. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. We're about to talk about FanDuel and their Heisman odds for Kurtis Rourke. So be sure you get over there. FanDuel.com is the place to be for all of your betting needs. One place to go, FanDuel.com. Final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much for being here and truly making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. Shout out to you on YouTube and to all my audio listeners as well. Spotify, Amazon, Apple, however you'd find us. I really do appreciate you being here for this free show that comes out Monday through Friday. I can feel the itch of basketball season, man. It's so close now with everything happening. And if you feel that way, if you're just like, man, look, Jacob's great. Locked On Hoosiers is great, but 25, 30 minutes of it's just not enough. I need more basketball talk in my life. You got to go check out my boys, Isaac and Andy, over at Locked On College Basketball. It's a daily college basketball show, same format as this, 3 segments, 25, 30 minutes, but they're talking all the biggest storylines in college basketball. Go check them out. Add that to your rotation. You will not be disappointed, I promise you. Locked On College Basketball. Tell them that Jacob from Locked On Hoosiers sent you. And make sure they're showing us enough love over there, okay? Make sure they're hyping us up enough to where people understand that Indiana, we're coming down the tracks. All right, final segment here on the show. And I do want to get into a little football conversation because I talked a lot about Kurtis Rourke throughout this week with his performance against Northwestern. That was just outstanding yet again. A few touchdown passes, no interceptions, no turnovers. Really didn't put his team in harm's way, but only I can think of one bad play, one bad throw that he had. Other than that, man, I've gone back and watched the highlights several times. This dude's just calm. He's cool. He's collected. Yeah, I know that's an old standard saying, but it's just true, man. He fits that statement so well. His poise in the pocket is just, all right. Oh, there he is. Huh. And he just lightly tosses it, and it's right there in the hands of his receiver every single time. He doesn't matter if they blitz, doesn't matter if they come off the edge, doesn't matter if they blow through the offensive line, doesn't matter. He just stands in there, delivers a good ball, will run down the field, and he'll do it again. And he knows when the right choice is in the RPO. He knows where the open receivers are. He knows how to get out of the pocket. He knows how to manage the game. I mean, this dude does it all. And so I think we here at Locked On Hoosiers, I think we need to just go ahead and claim it and start the campaign for Kurtis Rourke for Heisman. All right, so we're going to get stickers and buttons made. I'll get you some hats that we can wear. We're going to do whatever we can to get this man in New York City. Now, here's some things. We still got to win, and we got to look good doing it. We cannot fade off here and fall off a cliff and lose all of our games and Kurtis Rourke throw 1 million interceptions. That can't happen. But I don't think that's going to. And I think we continue to play really good football coming out of the bye week. And according to our friends over at FanDuel, FanDuel.com, Kurtis Rourke is on the Heisman favorite list as of right now. He's on the list. He is at about, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14th right now in the Heisman betting odds on FanDuel. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Should it be higher? Yeah, probably, but we're only 6 games in to the college football season. There's a long way to go. He's 14th right now at plus 4,500. So for those of you betting folks out there, all I'm saying is you think he's going to do it. You can jump on that thing. Look, for the price it takes for you to go and get lunch nowadays, throw $10 on it. That's $4.50, right? I'm just saying. I'm not telling you what to do. Just giving you an idea of where we sit right now with Kurtis Rourke. Some of the guys that are ahead of him: Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State, sure. You've got Tennessee's quarterback Nico. Quinn Ewers is up there from Texas, who hasn't even played the whole season. What the heck is that about? Carson Beck at Georgia. Okay, Bama made him look scared for the first half. You've got Milroe at Alabama. Didn't they just lose to Vanderbilt? Yeah, I thought so. Travis Hunter from Colorado. Whatever. That team's mid. They're average. They're an average football team. And right now, and I understand this, Ashton Genty from Boise State. If you haven't seen this dude play, he's legit. He's legit. The Boise State running back who just stands in the backfield, straight arms down, just waiting for the football. Dude's a beast. So, look, if we need to be second behind him, that's cool. I'm fine with that. But tell me how Kurtis Rourke is not higher on the Heisman list for a team, one of two teams in college football that is bowl eligible, has already punched their ticket to a bowl game. That's the Indiana Hoosiers. Okay. We're off to one of our best starts in program history. And Kurtis Rourke, just to remind you of his stats, 1,700 yards, 74% completion percentage, 14 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions, has a 192 quarterback rating going into the bye week. I told you yesterday, he's top 5 in passing yards. He's top 5 in passing efficiency. He is bottom 10, I think, in turnovers. Like, the dude is balling out right now. Top 15 in touchdown passes. Like, how is he not higher on the Heisman ratings? And it is what it is. We believe, right? And I think the Heisman is a interesting conversation because it's kind of like the MVP in the NFL or the NBA or whatever. Because some people think it should just flat out be the best player on whatever team. Doesn't matter if you're 10-0 or 0-10, just the flat out best player in college football should win the Heisman Trophy. I don't necessarily agree with that. And I think the Heisman is a little different than MVP because MVP stands for most valuable player. My opinion on that is, okay, most valuable player. Take the NBA, for example. I believe LeBron James could win MVP every single season because how I look at it is, all right, we have these 5 dudes on the finals list. Take them off their individual team. How different do they perform? What's the difference in their record? What's the difference in their scoring? What's the difference in their defense, right? What's the overall difference of a team if you take that guy off of it? That's what I think of as MVP. Heisman is a little bit different. It is a little more oriented to just flat out best player in college football. But I do believe that your team's performance should matter. I believe that. I don't think because you make it to the Birmingham Bowl that you're good enough to win the Heisman Trophy. I'm sorry. I just don't think that. I think you should have a legitimate team if you're going to be a Heisman Trophy contender. And so with that in mind, Travis Hunter out. Okay, Cam Ward's on there. That's pretty legit. Gabriel's on there from Oregon. That's good. Dart's on there from Ole Miss. That's fine. Klubnik from Clemson. Really? Didn't Tennessee just lose to Arkansas? I'm pretty sure they did. Drew Aller from Penn State. Not impressed. Shedeur Sanders from Colorado. Not impressed. And then you got Kurtis Rourke. So we got time to climb. I'm just saying, here at Locked On Hoosiers, I'm going to have my poster on the wall over here that says Rourke for Heisman. Okay, I'm going to get it made. We're going to be ready to go. Buttons, hats, shirts. We're going to rallies. We're going to do everything we can to get Kurtis Rourke as a Heisman Trophy winner. Tell me down below. Can he make it? Can he get to New York City? And what does he have to do to make that happen? I hope it does. But let's be real. We got a long way to go. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you again for being here, man. If you can't tell, I'm having a blast. I really, really am. And I hope that you are as well. If you missed any of our past episodes, be sure that you go and check those out on the YouTube channel, Locked On Hoosiers. We'll have another episode coming out for you tomorrow, okay? We normally preview the game coming up for Indiana, but we're going on a bye week. So we'll see what we have for you tomorrow. And hey, pay attention this afternoon on the Locked On Hoosiers YouTube channel. Our Big Ten squad episode drops this week, and it is the best one yet. You don't want to miss it. We had a lot of fun. It got kind of wild on this week's episode, so be sure you check that out as well. Like this video, comment your thoughts down below, subscribe to the channel before you get out of here, and I'll be back tomorrow. Okay, Hoosier fans? So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.